Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast, baby.
What's up, everybody? It's your BFFs, Linds and Krista. We are also best friends in real life. We're business partners. We created Almost 30 from our closet floors, and here we are 7 years later. We live on opposite coasts, but we see each other as much as we can to record and just feed this growing business brand community. And we're really excited you're here. If this is your first episode, hello. And if you're coming from the Radhi camp, welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Yeah, that's a good one. If you're coming from the Radhi world, we're really, really glad to have you. Because you are an amazing person with amazing energy. We had a first conversation with her probably a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now. One of the best. Just truly, her and Jay are even better in person. Like, deeply present, dialed, kind, warm, like giving people. It's really wild because Lindsay and I are lucky enough to have access in our space and world to some amazing and powerful people. And almost all of them are as kind and magical in person, but some of them you're like, wow, you're really doing it. You're really doing it on a big level in the world. And then in personal life, you're just as pleasant and amazing. So I'm really grateful that Radhi came on the podcast again. And again, if you want to listen to that first one, you can search Radhi Almost 30 and you can dive into our conversation around confidence, around her journey, around friendship. It was just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's always nice and I was talking to someone about this the other day, where who you see online really aligns with when you meet them, which is like a weird thing to say, but it's actually very rare. And it's really nice to experience that in our space and to really feel their authenticity. And I know authenticity is kind of like a bleh word, but to really feel on an energetic level, like them being themselves wherever they go, no matter if they are in front of, thousands of people or just with us intimately in a podcast studio. And that's something I definitely think about a lot and strive to be, because it could be easy to like just be a little chameleon and kind of be what you think people need you to be in those different arenas. But I feel like Jay and Radhi, and she talked about this a little bit, really make an effort to be themselves, no matter where they are. She was talking about in this conversation just how she's noticed that like when she's really authentic to who she is, it disarms people. Right before we met for the interview, I think it was the morning before, she did the Today Show, which was like such a big deal and so exciting. We were talking about kind of the prep for that and just that whole experience. And she's someone who is so beautiful, so naturally beautiful. And she did not wear makeup, really.
Icon.
Like I think she had maybe like a little rouge on the cheeks and maybe a little mascara. But when you're on TV, so many people are caked up because of the cameras, the lights, the whatever. And I think one of the anchors was like, oh, like off camera, she's like, oh my God. She's like, you look beautiful. Like you're not wearing any makeup. And Radhi all of a sudden became like a little self-conscious of like, oh yeah, like that's just like what I do. Like I didn't even think about it. But she noticed that it really kind of disarmed this woman and like just kind of created like a nice little rapport where Radhi was just being herself. And so yeah, I adore that about her. We had such a good freaking time. It was so nice to see her in New York. And one of the things we talked about that you and I were kind of chatting about before this was Radhi is someone who has an online presence. 2 million people are following her on Instagram alone. And she is such a bright light. When you go to her page, she is funny and positive and inspiring and thought-provoking and reflective. And she was saying how sometimes she gets kind of like feedback, comments about like, are you always this happy? Are you always this like, just, good? And she was saying how she felt like people didn't understand the responsibility as someone with a platform. And for her personally, so this is not like better or worse, but for her personally, it felt better to, if she's going through something, which she does, she's a human being, to have like, you know, her close friends or family be the ones that she goes to in order to process and share and really reserve the energy that she has after that to show up to her platform in an inspiring, impactful way. Again, neither better or worse, but it was an interesting way for me to think about it, because I think, you know, we see a lot of people today just kind of sharing in a way that isn't as thoughtful. And so they're sharing like kind of like in things that are in process and totally not integrated. And it can stir up this energy online, especially like in their own way, in their own platform. And it reminded me of just like when we are scrolling, we're kind of interacting with like everyone's nervous system. And sometimes like I scroll and I feel fine. And there are other times I scroll and I don't feel fine. And usually when I don't feel fine, it's because I've hit on some accounts where they're sharing things that feel a little dysregulated, and I'm kind of blending with them. So I just thought it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I have so much to say. I want to fall out of my chair. I just feel like, and I'm so grateful that she opened up this conversation. And I think this is a common thread that I've heard with a lot of our friends and a lot of the people that I know that have much larger accounts that are in the millions. And I just find it very interesting that I find that women only do this to accounts of other women. And that I don't see any women going to like Andrew Huberman or like, you know, other men that are like leaders in the space, even Jay, and being like, hey, where are you having a bad day? Like, when am I seeing you having a bad day? Like, are you always happy? And there's this thing where we women feel like women have to show all sides of them and have to present everything to feel safe or to feel like they're normal or to feel like we're not comparing ourselves to them. And there's just like this expectation that we hold of women to share so much more personal things than we do of men. And I just think it's incredibly unfair. Like, we're okay with men just being one dimensional when they share online. And we're like, oh, I love this content. Thanks for sharing your podcast, or thanks for sharing this, you know, research, or thanks for sharing this like one bit of information. But for women, it's like, if you're not sharing like your children, your family, what you're going through, your hard times, your body struggles, all these, then it's like, there's like something wrong, or like you need to be sharing more. And then there's also the assumption that like your online life is your real life. Like, we need to remember that our online life is not our real life. And when we're going to people and saying, hey, you need to share about when things are bad, it's like you are forgetting that the real life has precedent. And it's actually the healthiest thing to process what you're going through with your real life and with the real people that matter in your real life. And I don't think we really realize the impact that like sharing about things, especially, you know, Radhi's not a mother and neither am I, but I can imagine that if you're a mother and you have children and you're sharing about things about your children or your family online, that will impact them in the future. Like, we've never had this as like a culture or society where we're kind of growing up with children that were online. We are also online, you know, our children's children will be online, and everything is recorded and everything is going to exist forever, and everything people can react to or people can have comments to. And it's almost like what we say flippantly, you know, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where you'd say it just casually and it doesn't matter and it didn't mean anything at the time, is now recorded, unfortunately. So it's like everything just has so much more weight. And I think we're just really the first generation that's really processing that and working with that and like having the gravity of that. And I experienced that, you know, as a much smaller creator too, where I'm like, oh, I do want to bring people along the journey of what I'm going through. And I do share very openly about things that are hard and my struggles and things that I'm going through. But it's like, I also don't want a lot of opinions and perspectives about my process. And I want to, like what she's doing, be with the people that I'm impacting or are impacting me in whatever scenario first with things. And I think too, it feels a little leaky for me to be like, I'm struggling, I'm going to go to the internet. It's like, no, I'm struggling, I'm going to go to my self-care practices. I'm going to go to my therapist. I'm going to go to the things that help bring me back to center, like nature or meditation or baths or, you know, screaming, whatever it is, and then kind of come back. But it's like, I don't want my brain to get used to me going directly to social media when I feel like I'm not feeling myself. So yeah, I feel like that's such a relevant topic, even for people that have smaller platforms. It's like, how much are we sharing online? How much are we expecting people to share? When are we coming into this like portal and world of social media and assuming it's reality? Like, how can we pull ourselves out to just be reminded that like people are curating their feed because it's not exactly who they are?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
A whole
This
sermon
is coming out on the 8th. So I've announced my pregnancy already. But I'm going to do just kind of an episode a little bit on my experience of keeping this kind of close and private for a long time. And I've done this with other areas of my life. I feel like I shared about my wedding like right after. And it's something that like I didn't know I would want to do that until you're kind of in the process. And I've definitely gotten like messages and feedback that are like, well, I would love to like know more and I would love for you to share. And yeah, it's something that I might completely change my mind on at some point or another. I just kind of like flow with it. But I've been just super, I think, sensitive to it almost feels like an open wound when it's like online and then I'm unable to actually fully feel and be in the experience because there's this like open wound online, and wound's the wrong word, but it just feels maybe leaky. It's like out there, but I'm also experiencing it. And so I'm unable to fully experience it. So that's why it was like important that, we kept this private for as long as I could hide it, honestly, in a way. And I think to your point about like kids, yeah, I mean, I think about that so much. And there's, I have no like judgment towards anyone who share their kids online, but I do think about the fact that kids have like phones in their faces a lot, where it's like recording, and I want to be super mindful of that, when I have a child, where it's like, I don't want that to become like a regular thing, that they have this like thing in their face, they're being recorded, it's out there on the internet for anyone to pick up and see. And I don't know, there's just like a very interesting energetic. And I've seen some of our friends in this space kind of make a little bit of a shift and no longer share their children, which is interesting. But to your point, I think we're kind of the first generation where we have had our life with no social media. And then we've had this life with social media. I think the next generation has kind of always had it, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 2 generations. But I think there's a part of us that kind of misses the life without it. At least I do.
Yeah, I know there's that. Yeah, I don't consider it, but yeah, I definitely see the benefits of it. I think it's, I can't imagine what it will be like in my friends that have children. It is such a nuanced thing where we don't know really the impact on the brain yet. We don't really know all of these things in the way that it's like impacting them, but it's huge. And it's interesting to think like too, as a creator and a content creator, it's almost like sometimes like the thought is that you are trading your privacy and you're trading your aspects of your life for the life to, it's like, that's what's so interesting about being a content creator influencer. It's like, well, so you want to be private, but you can't necessarily be private if you're trying to monetize the access to your life or your thoughts or your fan. You know what I mean? It's like such a weird game, like where it's just all new and it's all something that we're all figuring out like in real time.
Totally. Unless you niche out and you're just making like sourdough bread, Yeah,
dude.
Sometimes I wish that was me.
Where it's just like a shot of just your hands kneading bread. You're just like, this is and yeah, no one's messaging the kneading bread woman and saying, "What? How are you having a bad day?" Tell me about your bad day. You know what I mean? Like, dude, that's the whole thing. It's like it's either niche down to a level that's like incredible, or you are open and lifestyle, and then people want everything. They're like, people to me, they're like, did you regret getting married? I'm like, that is not a conversation for me and a stranger to have. Like,
Totally.
I don't, first of all, at all. But it's just like, would you understand what you're asking me? Like,
100%.
this is like, if I was to tell you something and not tell the actual person that's directly impacted, is like, it's wild. It's a wild and crazy world. But Radhi is so beautiful in the way that she shares, and she's so open. And I love just being present for her process of her truth and her exploration. And she's got such an incredible YouTube. I know she's got big things coming out next year, which I'm really excited about too. And if you're also a fan of Radhi's, I'm sure you are of Jay's, and he's been on Almost 30 a few times as well. So you can search Jay Shetty Almost 30 and find other great episodes with him.
So check her out on all socials, Radhi Devlukia-Shetty. Enjoy this episode. If you loved it, please share with a friend. That's how we've grown from 0 to billions. But we really appreciate
That's how
you.
we became billionaires.
Yeah. We have new episodes every single week. We have not missed a week in 7 years. Sorry, bragging, but
that's how you get successful. People ask how you're successful. It's like, just keep going.
Just be consistent.
Yeah. Truly.
But we will see you on the other side of this one. Enjoy it.
We love you.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar. Now you can get 20% off every IQ Bar product plus free shipping when you text almost to 64,000. That's almost to 64,000. We were in the studio the other day and Krista was like, "Ooh, you brought IQ bars? Did you bring me banana nut?" I was like, "Yes, girl, I brought your banana nut." It's also my favorite, so I was giving her some of my favorites. But we are obsessed with IQ bar. Finally, a bar that is healthy, that doesn't cause like a mid-afternoon crash because of all the sugar. It is just super, super yummy, nourishing without weird ingredients. It's the only bar optimized for your brain and body. It's packed with brain nutrients, plant protein, and fiber, all with next to no sugar or net carbs. It's just super clean, and I'm obsessed. And the texture is moist and chewy, which is just how a bar should be. I will have these before a workout, after a workout. I might have this in the morning. I will have this as like a midday snack. It's the best. It's made with real food, not chemicals. And I think you are going to feel the effects of all the goodness in it. Mouthwatering flavors like toasted coconut chip. That's one of their newer ones that I'm obsessed with. I also love the banana nut, as I said, but they also have almond butter chip, peanut butter chip, and more. I also love their lemon blueberry. Okay, yeah, give me a little just like sweetness that's like super healthy and packed full of protein and good fats. So enjoy these bars. I'm excited for you to try finally a bar that doesn't have crap in it and makes you feel good and also tastes really good. So you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus get free shipping. To get that 20% off, just text almost, ALMOST, to 64,000. Get your discount. Text almost to 64,000. That's almost to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Before I got pregnant, I was really excited to find a alcohol brand that I loved and I trusted the ingredients and could enjoy every once in a while. I was bringing it to parties, like everywhere I went, dinner parties, and people were obsessed with June Shine. Okay, so maybe you have seen June Shine around. It's in over 10,000 stores across the country, available at Whole Foods and Target, Ralph's, Vons, Albertsons, Kroger's, Wegmans, Total Wines, Bevmo, Safeway, and more. So you've probably seen it, but maybe you haven't tried it yet. So let me talk about it for a second. This is my favorite go-to adult beverage. Why? I love a cocktail. So I love a margarita, but they also have vodka sodas and rum cocktails. They make these taste amazing with no added sugar, unlike your traditional canned cocktails. Typically have like 20 grams of sugar or more. It's kind of crazy. All of their cocktails are super refreshing and light. It tastes great. and it's great for on the go. Their hard kombucha is also just chef's kiss. I am not drinking right now because I'm pregnant, but my husband has been loving these, and we've been having them on the roof when we have barbecues, when we have friends over. This watermelon raz flavor is insanely good. It's so sippable, delicious. They also have mango daydream. They have blood orange mint, which is just so good. The grapefruit paloma. The notes are just so spectacular. You're going to love it, but not overly sweet, which is so, so great. It's 6% alcohol by volume, which is a lower percentage, which just makes drinking it enjoyable. So they have hard kombucha. And as I said, they have cocktails in a can like the rum Mai Tai, which is so good, the tequila margarita, vodka soda, and the vodka mule. Mwah, so freaking good. So try out June Shine. So exciting for our listeners. We worked out a special offer just for you at any store. You can buy one June Shine package and get the second for only a penny. That's basically a $12 to $20 value. I recommend getting one of their best-selling variety packs. It's a great way to just try all of their flavors. Go to juneshine.com/almost30. Text them a photo of your receipt and they'll Venmo you immediately. It's that easy. So juneshine.com/almost30, JUNESHINE.com/almost30. You will text them a photo of your receipt and then they'll Venmo you immediately. It's that easy. So go to any store. You can buy one June Shine package and get the second for only a penny. Hi, everyone. Just a quick note. This is part 1 of our conversation with Radhi Devlukia-Shetty, and part 2 will be released in October to celebrate her new podcast. Thanks for listening and enjoy. Okay, I love that you're here. I love that you're in New York, that I got you.
Me too.
Wait, I saw you on the Today Show.
Oh, thanks.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. It was one of the most nerve-wracking things. I literally was awake and every single hour the night before, because when I was already really exhausted.
Yes.
And then it's like my mind knew my body was so exhausted that I had this fear of missing my alarm. So every single hour I was up.
I know that feeling.
I know.
The worst.
It's like when you have an exam. That's what it took me back to.
It's like you can't fall asleep deeply enough to actually get
Yes.
rest. You're kind of like always a little bit awake.
Exactly.
So I'm curious because I want to hear about that experience, but what do you do? Like you're coming into a city that you don't have a home. It's not your home.
Mm-hmm.
You know the city. You kind of understand the energetics of the city, but how, before something big like that, are you grounding and like actually finding a little bit of peace? Because I feel like a lot of people are traveling a lot, maybe for work, maybe not. And they're not thinking about the energetics of the city and how they can kind of find like their center
Yeah, good question.
in it all.
I've learned to just do the minimal practices that I can, that I know help me in that moment. So I know going out for walks to like almost let my body, is it the word like accustomize or like become familiar with my surroundings. Again, why I like having windows and sunlight, places where I can really absorb in the environment that I am in. So definitely just getting outside. And, there's so many different practices like moon bathing and even like directly looking into sunlight when you get to a place. And, there's earthing where you just have your bare feet on the floor. One of those 3.
Or on Canal Street.
Exactly. Like wherever it is. One of those, I definitely do one of those 3 things when I get to a place.
Yeah.
Just really like settling into the environment. It's also kind of just telling the environment that you're in, I'm here, and letting your body really connect to that place. So I do that, but then I also have little things like the night before something like this. I know I want to, it's also just the little like self-care rituals. I do Abhyanga, which is one thing that Abhyanga is a Sanskrit word for self-body massage. It's a really beautiful self-love practice, which is basically using oils or medicated oils to and by medicated, I mean with adaptogens, onto your body. And I particularly do the feet because that's where our nerves end. It actually has access from your feet through the nerves throughout your entire body. And so even just by doing a little foot massage with oils, which also then lubricate your nerves and help to calm it and almost gives them a hug.
Yes.
That's a practice I love doing before I go to sleep, especially in a new environment or if I've got something big going on. And then also just eating foods. Like I always find when I go to a new place, I normally get really excited and I'm like, oh, I want to go eat this and I want to go eat a slice of pizza. But actually, like having foods specifically that ground you and earth you into your, like back into your body, and like foods that feel nourishing. Like anything nourishing makes your body feel so much more comforted and content in the space that you're in. So instead of reaching for like a pizza slice when you get somewhere, like maybe have something a little bit more nourishing for your mind and your body, because travel does a lot on your body as well that we don't really take into account.
Completely agree. The travel for me, some people thrive like going on planes and they really love the feeling. It's one of like the top 5 worst feelings I have, and I'm really trying to hack it. It's hard.
It is.
I think it's like the lack of oxygen. I think it's a lot of things.
so
It's the
much.
artificial light. But I think number 1 for me in that travel is what you mentioned, the nourishment.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's our digestion, I feel like, slows down, or my anxiety maybe restricts it. I don't know. But making sure that I'm like getting really healthy, clean foods, even though it might be a little boring and we're not taking part in like the buzz and what's happening, it makes a world of difference. What did you have like the morning of the Today Show? Because you have to get up so early.
I do. And honestly, I do intermittent fasting till like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So my body is actually a lot better. Like I function, whether it's workouts or whether it's performing in some way, whether it's going into an exam, I generally function better on an empty stomach.
I'm the same.
But what you were saying about feeling a little bit more anxious and your digestion, that's actually fully true when you go up in the air in a plane. So in Ayurveda, it says that Vata energy, which is light, airy, and the energy in your body, which actually causes anxiety and creativity in the mind, but when imbalanced can create the erratic feeling of like anxiousness. That's actually completely elevated and exacerbated when you travel in an airplane or in anything fast moving. That mixed with the altitude, mixed with the false air that's being put into the airplanes.
EMFs.
Your digestion is slowed down completely, which is why a lot of people come off a plane and get constipated. And your anxiety and your kind of mind is heightened to, you know, it's increasing air in your body, which increases that movement in your mind. And so all of that is so true. So that's why even on the plane, I have like a ritual of what I eat, what I don't eat, because I have to travel so much. I know what makes things a lot worse. They even say that your senses on your tongue become a little bit numb, and so even flight food ends up being saltier, and like you crave more salt, so you're eating a lot more crisps and like dried food and things to just stimulate your tongue more, because your tongue is actually like the stimuli on there are dampened. So much that happens, and I just think like this feeling of awareness, like what you said, this is what you've noticed, these things about your body, you've noticed that this is what happens. I think we become so mindless especially if you do it often, in the day-to-day activities. I'm like, when my friends land and they're like, I'm constipated, and then it stays for like 3 days, I'm like, that's not normal. You're not doing the things that you need to be doing. Like, it's not normal not to poop for 3 days. That's inside your body. It's actually getting like TMI.
No, but yeah,
it's true.
But a lot of people, I think a lot of people settle for certain feelings or conditions that kind of arise, whether it's after they travel or, you know, at certain times of the month, that are really pointing to an imbalance.
Yes.
And it upsets me when I hear about it, because I'm like, oh my God, you've been living with that.
I know.
And like being constipated, I feel like affects more than everything. You know,
migraines,
yes,
sluggishness, energy levels.
Yes.
And so I think it's all just about having that, you know, it's hard to be mindful and conscious at every part of the day. Like it really is. But when you're noticing things happening repeatedly, that's probably a time to tune back in and say, hey, this has been happening to me over and over and over again. What are the things I can do, that I can adjust, that I can make minor changes to make less of an impact in this way? And I think, consciously living through things that we're repeatedly doing is so important.
Okay, I have become obsessed
and so happy that I have been tracking my metabolic health using a continuous glucose monitor. I saw a lot of people on social media starting to do this, and I was really curious, but I was kind of overwhelmed with the options and how to do this and would I like it. And when I found Levels, I was like, okay, this is my perfect fit. Monitoring my glucose is now one of the most important things I do to maintain my peak vitality. And what I'm learning is my peak longevity as well. So it's really, really easy. So I attached the glucose monitor to my upper arm. It was easy and painless. And then I am tracking my glucose in the app. The app is incredibly easy to use. It's informational. I learn so much. For example, the other day I'm getting my, at the end of pregnancy, I'm getting my date intake every single day. This is something that they recommend doing to just like soften your cervix, etc. And I realized like, oh, wow, okay, this is like such a glucose spike when I eat these dates. Obviously, it's natural sugars. But what I started doing and noticing that it would help reduce the glucose spike was dipping it in a load of peanut butter, which was so cool to see it actually work. And I noticed a difference afterwards where I wouldn't have this like crash after my sugar high. It would be more maintained energy and I just felt more satiated. So I learned that through my monitor. And then also another hack that I discovered that was so helpful was after dinner. I'm having dinner earlier now, probably around 5:36. So after dinner, I'll take a short walk and I love dinner. So I have like a nice hearty dinner. And what the walk does is blunt the spike by disposing of the glucose to the major muscle groups as I am walking. So it's so fascinating. I am feeling better than ever. What's also fascinating is that we all respond differently, even to the same food. So for example, one type of carbohydrate, whether it's fruit or rice or sweet potato, that your body might process well, my body might not. This is why personal data is so important. So the app itself is amazing. It interprets your glucose data and provides a simple score after you eat a meal so you can see how different foods affect you and develop a personalized diet that's right for you. And I love it because you can see like real time. It's a very powerful way to change your behavior if you're someone who maybe is first thing in the morning having something like super sweet and wondering why you are so tired mid-morning. It is absolutely going to change your behavior. So right now, Levels is offering our listeners a special offer. So when you use the link levels.link/almost30, levels, levels.link/almost30, you will receive a special offer. So check that out. I am a believer. I am a user. I am totally seeing my health in a different light and able to really optimize in a way that I haven't been able to before. So thank you, Levels. Love you. Again, the link is levels.link/almost30 for a special offer just for you. It was about 4 years ago that I started to take Seed. The DS-01 Daily Symbiotic has been a part of my routine for a while now, and I literally tell anyone and everyone who's willing to listen that they should try Seed for improved gut health. And we know by now, I would think, because all y'all are on the internet, on social media, I feel like it is a topic of conversation that the health of our gut is linked to so much more than just our digestion. It is linked to our mental health, our immune health, and more. Seed is committed to scientific integrity and transparency. You can go on their website and learn so much. They develop scientifically validated, clinically studied next generation probiotics for people and the planet. Their first product for humans, the DS-01 Daily Symbiotic that I mentioned, is literally the only probiotic I trust and take. Anyone else take probiotics and being like, is this working? Like, what's happening? There's a difference between the Seed capsule and other capsules. What is the difference? It's designed to survive your stomach acid, bile salts, and digestive enzymes. Seed is so different. It literally survives your GI tract, which most don't. Okay. So this is really, really important in the process. Okay. It has to get to where it's going in order to work. So I love that about seed. I've just noticed an improvement in my digestion, my energy. Y'all, I have been in good health for quite some time. And I know that maintaining a healthy gut has been a part of that strong immune system. If you don't believe me, check out any of your other favorite people on social media because so many people are talking about seed. It works. It truly, truly works. So for our listeners, I'm excited for you because you get a special offer. So if you want to cut through the gut health noise, like all the other things out there, and really get to the product that is going to work, visit seed.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 to redeem 30% off your first month of Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic. That's seed.com/almost30 and use the code almost30, SEED.com/almost30. Use the code almost30 for 30% off your first month of Seed's DSO1 Daily Symbiotic. I guess for people who are listening and they're like, so how do I connect with my body? How do I really get in tune? I feel like there might be a lot of people out there who hear a lot of people talk about being in tune with their body. And they're like, yeah, totally. Yeah. And they're like, how the hell? So how are we getting in tune with our bodies on both a physical, mental, and emotional level? Because I do think for me, it's like a lifelong practice, especially as bodies change, as seasons change.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've been thinking about it. And it's exactly what you said. It's something that never actually stops because your body is changing every second. Your mind and how you're growing is going to be deciding so many different things about you. And so actually it is a practice that isn't just, let's figure this out now.
Yeah.
It's part of life and part of living to live optimally. And so the way that, like, physically, the way that I really try to connect to my body, I would say, yeah, physically, it's really listening to your body. Like, I think, and by that, I mean, when you're doing workouts, let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
What feels like it's harming my body versus healing my body? Because actually every single thing we are doing should be to heal. It may be that it, stretches your muscle and it contracts it so you get some sort of muscular pain, but it's, I feel like you could tell the difference between the two. And a lot of the time we end up seeing what other people are doing. I personally have been going through this because I speak to some friends different friends have different body shapes. Like, everybody has a different body shape. And I'll be looking at someone who has a completely different structure to me. And I know that bodies have different structures. I've studied in Ayurveda, but still your mind tricks you. And so I'll be looking at someone who has a completely different frame to me. And they're like, oh, all I do is Pilates. I just do Pilates and that's what's created muscle in my body, or that's how I've got tone. I'm like, oh my God, amazing. And so I'm just going to do Pilates. And then I do Pilates. And I'm like, I haven't got the same results as this person. Yeah. Or then I hear another friend saying, oh my goodness, I'm weightlifting. And honestly, I don't even do cardio. I just weightlift. So, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So then I should just weightlift, and so many different things. So then my whole week ended up being weightlifting, Pilates in the evening, running on Wednesday, yoga on Thursday, like just so spread out where nothing actually ends up making a difference if you do it in that way because you're not committing or being consistent with something. And so what I've learned now to do is let me try something for a month, like just stick to one thing for a month and have my body react and let me listen to how my body feels, and physically even how your body changes, and seeing your energy levels and all those things that you are looking for optimal health physically. Is this contributing towards that? And if it's not, then a month later you can change it. And when I was a dietitian, that's how I used to do a lot of like elimination diets. When I would have people come in and they would say, these things, I've got this. And I'd say, okay, fine, let's cut everything out and add things back in one at a time. And so let's see how your body reacts to it. And so I would say have an elimination diet, cut everything out that you're unsure about, and then start adding things in and see how your body's reacting to it. Sometimes we just have like a whole cocktail of things that we're doing and we just don't know what's good and what's bad for us.
Sure.
And what's good for some people may not be good for you.
And that's why I think it's really hard with social media and just all of the information that we're fed on a daily basis or come across on a daily basis. That's why I love your approach of being more intuitive for you specifically and learning your own system and your own body. Because everyone is different, whether it's for food or working out,
Yes.
etc. But I mean, I find that people are hopping more on trends
Absolutely.
than actually listening to their body. I mean, when I was living in LA and I was teaching Soul Cycle, but then I was also, after my 3 Soul Cycle classes I would teach, I would go and teach, or I would go and take a berries class.
Yeah.
So constant HIIT, constant intense cardio on the body. But I'm like everyone's doing these workouts. So
exactly.
I'm going to do these workouts. And I also saw other people with bodies that I wanted to emulate, just like you
Exactly.
said. And what happened was I completely burnt out
Burnt
my
out.
adrenals.
I was going to say, I've seen so much research that actually shows, and I started looking at it because of a few people in my life have polycystic ovary syndrome.
Yes.
And
So many people.
And when I was researching it, and I found that it actually says that when you do a lot of cardio or high intensity training, it actually increases your estrogen levels. And so for a lot of women, and I don't have PCOS, but I have higher estrogen levels. And so I was the person who, I'm like, unless I'm sweating and nearly feeling sick, it's not a workout. And that's how I trained my mind to believe that unless I'm running and sweating and really or doing a Barry's workout or something where I almost am feeling physically sick, that's what a good workout is. Sure. And what I realized was I was doing way more damage to my body, even if I was getting more into the shape that I thought I wanted or into the structure that I thought I wanted. I was actually depleting myself so much more internally. Yeah. And so it's true actually and that's another thing you have to think about, like, what are my hormones telling me? What are my blood when I'm doing my bloods, what is it saying that I'm lacking or that I need? And so I think there's a lot of research that goes into tuning in as well. It's not just sitting there and thinking, what's my body feeling? Even though that's a really good way to do it emotionally and mentally. But physically, we also have to put in the experiments and the work and the research behind, the actual scientific information we have in front of us and reacting based off that.
Sure. Have you done any of the...
I've done everything.
Yeah. Tell me what you've done and what's been really helpful.
Yeah, I did a full blood work. And by that, I mean hormones, vitamins, minerals, and estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all of those levels. I did all of that. And then I also did a gut test. I've done gut tests quite often because, again, once you do one gut test, 6 months later, a year later, your gut changes based on your environment and what you've been through and the stress that you've been through. Sure. And so doing a gut test regularly will help you to understand what foods your body needs. Like, oh, I need more foods that have prebiotics. I need more foods that have been sprouted and have these vitamins and have these minerals. And so doing a gut test was really helpful. So full blood work, gut test, and then... I also, this is not something everybody can do and to be accessible, but because I had it available to me, I got my brain scanned.
Cool.
And that was really interesting just to understand, like, there were lots of traits that I had that I would always put down to, like, kind of put myself down for. And it helped me understand my brain structurally. So one of the things he had told me was that a lot of the areas in my mind when he scanned it, they're lighting up at the same time. And usually what happens with people is it lights up in one area and then another area and then another area. And it actually helped other people also in my life understand why my brain goes from one thing to another so fast. And it's not that I'm not listening. It's that when someone says one thing to me, my brain's doing da-da-da-da-da, and suddenly I'm asking you something that's completely unrelated. So it makes someone feel like I'm not actually listening, but really I've done a whole...
You connected the dots.
Yeah, in so many different
dots.
ways. And suddenly I'm asking you a question about something that's completely irrelevant, but it's connected in my mind. So I've also learned to kind of understand my mind a bit better in that way. Wow. But structurally also kind of explain that for me. So full blood work, but the basics I would really recommend is full blood work and getting your digestion checked, because your digestion links to every other part of your body as well.
What was interesting about your digestion results, or at least one of them that surprised you?
I'm trying to think so for me, from the blood work, high estrogen surprised me, because and again, the things that you end up changing from that, by the way, are drinking water from plastic bottles. A huge thing that contributes to high
I was just
estrogen
about to
levels.
say, I was about to apologize for the plastic bottles. No, I told her, I was like, can you?
No, there's nothing here. No. Big loss. So that's a huge contributor. And
Yeah.
again, heating food up in plastic, like
Yes.
plasticware, anything.
I've been a crazy person about that.
Me too. I've really
Mhm.
changed that because, and I keep telling, one of my friends I watched a video of yours recently where you were talking about woo-woo mentality. Like everyone's like, oh, this is
Yes.
woo-woo. And so I kept telling my friends, I was like, I'm telling you, you're drinking from plastic bottles every single day. That's all they had in their home. I was like, it's not good for
It's
you.
leaching,
And
yeah.
they see me as that, like the OTT extreme.
Same.
Everything is just like,
I'm that girl in
Yes.
every friend group.
and I'm like, okay, fine, don't listen. The guy goes to get his blood work done. He has high estrogen levels. And the first thing his doctor, a normal doctor, asked him was, do you drink from plastic bottles?
No way.
And he was like, yeah. Next thing I go there, they've got like just waters in their thing. I was like, what? And he told me, he was like, yeah, this is what the doctor
Wow.
told me. So it's like, again, these are all such subtle little
Yes.
changes that we're making, but that can make a huge difference. So the estrogen, and then in terms of digestion, what made a difference for me? So I'm like quite regular, and how you would
Mhm.
expect you to be regular if you've got a good digestion.
Sure.
But one thing I did realize, or it made me more aware of, was the variety of like having more variety in your life helps create more variety in your microbiome. And so again, seasonally, changing what you're eating based on the season, we get so used to having the same things throughout the year because it's all available to us that we've kind of lost awareness of what maybe we need to be changing and how impactful those changes
Yeah.
are. So the different colored vegetables you're having in different seasons, the sprouted things that you're having, all of those things, the nuts and seeds that you're having at different times of the year. So I think actually tuning in to your environment, what's growing around you, what's available around you, and what should be or shouldn't be available to you at this time, whether it's summer, spring, winter, autumn,
Yes.
whatever it is, it actually helps to change the way that your gut will also react to the foods that you're eating. And so that was something amazing to me. So now I just have like a list of things throughout the year that I want to swap in or swap out
Sure.
for to increase my microbiome, which also strengthens your gut because it makes it kind of robust to whatever you're putting into it.
Mhm.
And your gut is just, everyone, there's so much research to show the gut link to your mind, to your
Yeah.
moods, to your hormones, to everything. A weak digestion depletes you.
And I think so many people I think now it's becoming more widely known,
Definitely.
the connection. But I remember my mom has had gut issues for a long time. And I remember having a conversation with her, not to like teach her something, but it just kind of happened that it
Yeah.
clicked for her that there were moments of anxiety, and anxious periods in her life where her digestion was slowed down. Also, what she was putting in her body was kind of a result of how anxious she felt. And so it was like so it's like this like loop,
Definitely.
and we have to be super aware of that. And I'm so glad that now in the mental health space, that's being talked about more,
Yeah.
How we're nourishing our bodies and how that affects our brain.
Mm-hmm. What do you do physically in terms of to keep yourself in check and understanding your own body?
Yeah. I definitely have done on a regular basis. I do the blood tests. I do the hormone checks. During that period that I was doing a lot of HIIT workouts, and I was drinking quite like not quite a bit, but I was drinking more,
Yeah.
a lot more, and not nourishing my body in a way that it was intuitive. It was more so just getting food in my body to be able to work out like I was working out. And so once I got very real about that and saw the results, both how I was approaching my workouts was much slower, much more for healing rather than punishing my body. And now just to speak to the food piece of eating more locally and seasonally. I'm in New York. It's not the easiest thing to do, but God is good, and he placed me next to an organic market.
Yes.
And I also have a harvest box that I'm subscribed
love
to
that.
called Local Roots.
Yeah.
Shout out. And it's great because they're sourcing from like the Hudson Valley, and every single week I get very local, very seasonal fruits, veggies, eggs, and things like that. So it's just a nice way also to like reconnect with the earth and just understand kind of what's happening on like a earth and soil level, because we're so
Yes.
disconnected. And I think Zach Bush talks about this a lot, but just that connection between our microbiomes and the soil,
And the soil, yeah.
and how the soils are so depleted and so sterile now. And no wonder why our gut is,
So
in the
depleted.
state that it
Yeah.
is. So I think about that a lot.
I love that you said, and it just, sparked something that when you said it's difficult in New York to get it. And I think like this shouldn't be a scary thing for people to do. Sometimes you think it has to be all or nothing.
Right.
But like, even if you do a 10% change, like I'm going to, even if it's a 70-30 split of I'm going to have 30% of my food that's not seasonal, or depending on where you're at right now, if you're at 100% of eating foods which maybe aren't kind to your gut, even if you're changing it at 30% or a 10%, like it doesn't have to be extreme changes. And I think like give yourself grace. It's all about the steps that you're taking. It's not about having that drastic change. So it doesn't matter if someone's at 100%, do your 10% and see the difference that it makes.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think people get overwhelmed.
It is overwhelming because you see everybody showing up online as their best selves. And it's like, this is the organic veg that I've bought, but we're not seeing all the other stuff maybe that,
Sure.
that we've, and I'm a culprit of that too. You want to show up as the best version of yourself, but also know that everybody has a version of themselves that they are changing and adapting and working on. And you may not see that part. So you need to think about what your percentages are and where you want to meet yourself.
And that 10% can make such a difference. I'm thinking
Huge.
about my husband, like, and I think just by proxy, I try not to like preach, but just like being in each other's, existence. He's trying an athletic greens. He's having electrolytes in his water,
Yeah.
And it's become not only, I'm sure it makes him feel good, but there's something about knowing that you've incorporated a healthy routine into your life that I think for him, like I just noticed, like there's just like, I'm doing this for myself. Yeah.
It's like a confidence in yourself. I think, when you're, it's like in a relationship, when you're treating someone kindly and with thought and with care and with respect and giving them what they need, they flourish. And in the same way, when you're giving your body what it needs to feel loved, to feel cared for, to feel nourished, you feel confident and you feel there's a different type of, I know when I'm doing the practices, when I'm waking up and I'm doing my meditation and I'm getting my workout or movement in and I'm eating the right foods and I'm, working at the pace that my body needs versus what my mind thinks I need to be at. Oh my goodness, I get to the end of the day and I'm like, God, that was a productive day. I feel so good.
Yes.
And it's not even drastic, amazing things that I've done. It's just sticking to the few things in my life that I know fuel me so deeply. And so actually that becomes your kind of rating of success at the end of the day. Like sometimes I would get to the end of the day and I'd be like, God, I didn't even make it through this. I didn't even get my meditation done in the morning. I didn't do this. And a lot of the things that I was actually thinking about when I got to the end of the day weren't related to productivity of my goals. It was linked to the things that I know I needed and I didn't do, that I disappointed myself with. And so, I think that's so important.
And that really comes with, knowing yourself well enough to know what puts you specifically into the state that you desire, whether it's a more peaceful state, a calm state, a more focused state. And I find that, there was a period in which I was kind of forcing parts of my morning routine where I'm like, you only meditated for 5 minutes? Like you're supposed to do like 10 or 15, like, just pieces that I was being a little judgy and perfectionist about. And I realized that, being in tune for me really means checking in. Maybe it's not even a seated meditation. Maybe it's a walking meditation that goes right into maybe some computer work before I have like a nice leisurely lunch with a friend. Like just understanding the aspects of that routine that actually just make me feel like more grounded in my body,
Mhm.
accomplished if that's something I want to feel.
Yes.
And it kind of changes on a daily basis.
Totally.
You know?
We like, and I think about that all the time because I feel like I was basing everything that my wants, my needs, who I was on someone that I was like 5 years ago, 7
Yes.
years ago.
Mhm.
All the things that people like, because they haven't seen the changes maybe that I've been going through, I kept reverting back to this version of myself that made other people feel comfortable, that made other people feel like that the version that I thought that they preferred of me. And I realized I was doing such an injustice to myself because I am changing and the things that I like have changed and the groups that I want to be around have changed. There's so much that changes within us and then shows up externally. And if we only harbor it inside and we don't allow it to be expressed and allow our changes to blossom and actually show, it's a part of us that we're just hiding. And so whether it is some, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes to other people they may think you've changed for the worse, you've changed for the better. But either way, hiding anything inside of you that you are, it makes, that's also another root cause of disease in the body. When you end up feeling ashamed of yourself, or you end up feeling like you're hiding parts of yourself that other people may not agree with or condone, whatever it is that they may not like about you, you're almost shaming yourself because you're not ready to show up as whoever you are. And been thinking about this so much lately, that like every single person has weeds. We all have weeds. But for some reason, when we look at other people's weeds in them, if we don't recognize them, or they're not familiar to us, or we haven't got them ourselves, or we don't recognize them in ourselves, we end up judging them, or we end up thinking that they're far worse. But the point is, everybody's got weeds. It's just that we have different ones. And so we judge people based on things that are unfamiliar to us, or things that we don't recognize, without realizing that actually it's just something else. It's just another species of weed. Just like I've got them, they've got them.
That makes up their garden.
Exactly. That makes up their garden. And we're all just trying everyone's just trying their best in that way.
Thank you so much, Radhi. We love you. And again, you can listen to more episodes with us and Radhi by searching Radhi Almost 30 or Jay Almost 30 to find the episodes with her and her husband. It was such a pleasure to have you on Almost 30 podcast.
And thank you to our sponsors for this episode, bringing you brands we love and actually use. You can find all of our mega discounts in our show notes, as well as on almost30.com. To learn more about Almost 30, how to get more involved, be in community with us, please go to almost30.com. We have incredible courses and programs like the Life Edit and the Sacredness of Being Single, and the Invitation, which is a breakup series for friendships and romantic relationships and more. And we also have our Almost 30 membership, which is a place where you can feel incredibly supported in community on your path of growth. And we're just really honored to provide that space. So check it out, almost30.com.
Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.